At Christmas dinner, my brother declared, "We took a vote. You don't belong here." I hadn't stepped foot in that house in 3 years. Not since my brother Liam pushed me out of the family business and told me I'd never be good enough. But this Christmas, I smiled as I walked up the driveway. They thought I was back to play nice. They had no idea I was playing a completely different game. The Morgan estate looked exactly as I remembered it. Imposing stone facade, meticulously trimmed hedges, and a massive wreath hanging on the mahogany double doors. Christmas lights outlined every window, giving the mansion a festive glow that felt at odds with the cold reception I expected inside. I adjusted my designer coat and checked my reflection in my compact mirror. Dark hair swept into a sleek updo, makeup subtle but flawless. I needed to look successful, but not flashy. The balance was crucial for what I had planned. The door swung open to reveal Claire, my sister-in-law, with her perfect blonde hair and practiced smile. Her expression flickered momentarily, surprise, then something close to alarm, before settling on forced cheerfulness.
"Ava."
"You made it." She stepped forward to air-kiss my cheeks. "We weren't sure you'd come. Yet here I am," I replied, handing her the bottle of Dom Perignon I'd brought, expensive enough to make a statement. "Merry Christmas, Claire." Inside, family photos lined the walls of the grand foyer, most featuring Liam and my parents at various charity galas and business events. The photos that included me had grown scarcer over the years, until they disappeared altogether after what the family now simply called the incident. As Claire led me into the living room, conversation halted abruptly. 5 pairs of eyes turned toward me, with expressions ranging from surprise to unmistakable discomfort. Liam stood by the fireplace, tumbler of whiskey in hand, looking every bit the successful CEO in his tailored Christmas sweater. Our younger sister Emma sat with her husband Todd on the love seat. My mother occupied her favorite armchair, her posture rigid as always, while my Uncle James, Dad's brother and silent partner in the family business, nursed a drink in the corner. "Look who's here," Claire announced unnecessarily. "Ava." Liam recovered first, crossing the room with calculated confidence. What a surprise. He embraced me stiffly, his cologne expensive and overpowering. "We didn't think you'd make it. I RSVP'd 2 weeks ago," I reminded him, keeping my tone light. "Of course," he backpedaled smoothly. "It's been hectic at the office. Must have slipped my mind." I didn't miss the quick glance he exchanged with my mother. Something was definitely off. "Darling." Mom approached next, her silk dress rustling as she moved. She kissed the air near my cheek. "You look well." The slight pause spoke volumes. One by one, they greeted me. Emma with genuine warmth, Todd with awkward politeness, Uncle James with a curious intensity that suggested he was trying to figure out my angle. I accepted a glass of wine from Claire and settled into conversation, answering their careful questions about my life with equally careful responses. Yes, I was still in the city. No, I hadn't left the industry entirely. Yes, I was doing fine financially. No, I wasn't seeing anyone seriously. What I didn't tell them, I was more than fine. I was thriving, and tonight was just the beginning. "So, Liam," I said during a lull, "I heard about the Westridge development. Congratulations. That's a major win for Morgan and Company." Liam straightened, chest puffing slightly. Pride had always been his weakness. News travels fast. I keep my ear to the ground. I smiled. Dad would have been proud. The mention of our father cast a momentary shadow across the room. Robert Morgan had built the company from nothing, turning a small construction outfit into the most respected development firm in the state. He'd been grooming both Liam and me to take over, until his sudden death 5 years ago left a power vacuum that Liam had quickly filled, with me conveniently pushed to the sidelines. "He certainly would be," Mom said, her gaze softening as it always did when she thought of Dad. "Morgan and Company has never been stronger." I bit back the urge to contradict her. Not yet. Instead, I asked about the project details, watching Liam carefully as he boasted about investors and projections. Something in his demeanor felt off, a slight nervousness behind the bravado. Throughout the conversation, I caught them exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. The tension was palpable, not just the expected awkwardness of my return, but something more deliberate, planned. As we moved to the dining room, I paused by the study, Dad's old sanctuary. Through the half-open door, I glimpsed papers spread across the desk. Legal documents from the look of them. I would have stepped closer, but Liam materialized beside me. "Nothing's changed in there," he said, closing the door firmly. "Mom can't bear to redecorate." I met his gaze steadily. "Some things should remain as they were, don't you think?" His jaw tightened. "And some things need to evolve. Ava, you know that better than anyone." In the dining room, I took my seat, not at the far end where they'd clearly expected to place me, but at Dad's old spot near the head of the table. Liam's eye twitched as I settled in, but he said nothing. As I surveyed the familiar faces around the table, memories flooded back. The last Christmas dinner I'd attended 3 years ago had ended with Liam cornering me in the study, waving financial reports in my face, accusing me of being reckless with company resources. 2 weeks later, the board, led by my own brother, had voted to remove me from my executive position. But that was then. I'd spent 3 years building something they couldn't imagine. 3 years preparing for this moment. Claire brought out the first course, butternut squash soup, a family tradition. The aroma brought an unwelcome pang of nostalgia. For a fleeting moment, I remembered how it felt to belong here. "A toast," Uncle James suggested, raising his glass. "To family." I raised mine with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "To family," I echoed, catching Liam's uneasy gaze across the table. Let them think I was here seeking reconciliation. Let them believe I was desperate to be welcomed back into the fold. They would learn soon enough what I had become in the darkness they had cast me into. The game had begun, and they had no idea they were already losing. Claire's roast duck was perfectly cooked, the cranberry sauce tart and sweet. But beneath the clink of silverware and forced small talk, tension grew with each passing minute. Emma chatted about her children's school plays. Uncle James discussed a golf trip, his voice too jovial, clearly compensating for something. Mom remained mostly silent, studying me when she thought I wasn't looking. And Liam? He kept checking his watch, knee bouncing beneath the table. Waiting. "More wine, Ava?" Claire offered, bottle poised above my glass. "Please," I said, noting how my glass was the only one nearly empty. Were they trying to get me drunk? I'd spent 3 years learning to hold my liquor in business meetings where men tried the same tactic. "So, Ava," Uncle James leaned forward, "what have you been up to these past years?" "Still in construction management." I dabbed my lips with my napkin. "In a manner of speaking." "Consulting work," he pressed. "Among other things." I smiled. "I've been keeping busy." Liam scoffed, barely disguising it as a cough. "I imagine it's been difficult. Your reputation took quite a hit after everything." "Liam," Mom warned softly. "Actually, it's been liberating. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you're not bound by family expectations." Emma looked nervously between us. "The duck is amazing, Claire." "Is that rosemary?" But Liam wasn't letting it drop. "Liberating? That's an interesting way to describe unemployment." "Who says I'm unemployed?" I challenged. The table fell silent. Liam's jaw tightened, that familiar twitch at the corner of his eye when things weren't going according to plan. "Perhaps now isn't the time," Mom interjected. "Actually," Liam said, pushing back his plate, "I think now is perfect." He pulled out an envelope and placed it on the table. "We have family business to discuss." My heart quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. This was it, what they'd been planning. "Liam, we agreed to wait until after dinner," Mom whispered. "Why wait?" Liam's eyes fixed on me. "Ava's always preferred directness, haven't you, sis?" I took a slow sip of wine. "By all means, let's be direct." Liam stood, raising his glass. The others shifted uncomfortably, except for Uncle James, who leaned back with the look of someone preparing to watch a long-anticipated show. "A toast," Liam announced. "To family and to difficult decisions that must be made for the greater good." No one raised their glasses but him. We took a vote, Ava, he continued, his voice taking on that smooth, authoritative tone he used in board meetings. And we've decided, unanimously, that you don't belong here. Emma gasped softly, glancing at her husband, who suddenly found his plate fascinating. Belong where, exactly? I asked, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. At Christmas dinner? Or are we talking about something else? Liam tapped the envelope. Morgan and Company was always meant to be a family legacy. But after your missteps, we've had to reevaluate what that means. We've had lawyers draft an agreement, he continued, sliding the envelope toward me. We're officially removing you from all family business interests. Your remaining shares will be purchased at market value. Trust fund liquidated. All ties severed. I stared at the envelope without touching it. I see. It's for the best, darling, Mom added, her voice gentle but firm. The company needs stability. Your brother has worked so hard to repair the damage. What damage would that be, Mom? I interrupted. The fictional accounting errors Liam convinced the board I made? Or the reckless expansions that are now, ironically, the cornerstone of Morgan and Company's current success? This isn't productive, Liam cut in. The decision's been made. The documents require your signature tonight. Tonight? I arched an eyebrow. That explains the Christmas invitation. And here I thought you all missed me. We've arranged for fair compensation, Uncle James added. More than fair, actually. How generous, I replied, sarcasm dripping. And if I don't sign, then things become less amicable, Liam stated flatly. We have evidence of your misconduct that we've kept private out of respect for Dad's memory. We'd prefer not to use it. I looked around the table at each of their faces. Emma, uncomfortable but silent. Todd, avoiding eye contact. Claire, nervously twisting her napkin. Uncle James, calculating as always. And Mom, looking at me with a mixture of pity and resolve that cut deeper than Liam's threats. So, this is what Christmas is about now? I asked quietly. Ambushing the black sheep during dinner? It's business, Ava, Liam said. Nothing personal. I wanted to laugh in his face. Nothing personal? Pushing your sister out of her birthright was about as personal as it got. I slowly reached for the envelope, my hands trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from the effort of containing my rage. I opened it, skimming the legal jargon I'd already anticipated. Complete removal from the family trust. Forfeiture of all remaining shares in Morgan and Company. A non-compete clause preventing me from working with any of their clients for 5 years. And a confidentiality agreement that would silence me forever about family matters. In exchange, a one-time payment that amounted to pennies compared to what I was entitled to. Robbery dressed up as charity. I need time to review this, I said finally. Tonight, Ava, Liam insisted, or the offer expires. I closed the envelope and placed it beside my plate. Then I dabbed my lips with my napkin and looked up at him. I guess I should thank you, I said softly. Liam blinked, clearly caught off guard. Thank me for making this so much easier than I expected. Confusion flickered across his face. Good. I pushed back my chair and stood. I think I'll skip dessert. I've had my fill of family traditions for one night. As I turned to leave, I paused and looked back at them. This family that had once been my whole world. Merry Christmas, I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. You'll be hearing from me very soon. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text. Proceed with phase 2. Then I walked out the front door into the cold night air, smiling genuinely for the first time that evening. They thought they'd cornered me. They had no idea I'd been building my own cage for them, piece by piece, for 3 long years. And they had just willingly walked right into it. 3 years earlier. The door to my office at Morgan and Company had barely closed behind me when the tears came. Not gentle tears of sadness, but hot, angry tears of betrayal. I'd just been escorted out by security, my belongings hastily shoved into a cardboard box. Employees I'd worked with for years averted their eyes as I walked past. No one dared challenge Liam Morgan, the new golden child of our father's company. This isn't right, a voice said behind me in the parking garage. I wiped my eyes before turning. Walter Chun, our head project manager, stood there, looking nervously over his shoulder. "It doesn't matter what's right anymore, Walter," I replied bitterly, "because they don't know the truth." Walter handed me a flash drive. "I've been keeping records. The numbers Liam showed the board were doctored. I can prove it." I stared at the small device. "Why risk your job for me? Your father gave me my first real chance when no one else would. He believed in me." Walter met my eyes. "He believed in you too, Ms. Morgan. He told me once that you had the vision, while Liam had the charm." That night, I examined Walter's files, seeing exactly how my brother had manipulated financial reports, shifted blame for project delays onto me, and systematically undermined me to the board. By morning, I had two choices: fight a messy battle against my own family, or disappear and build something new. I chose the latter. 2 years earlier. "Morgan is the wrong name for this venture," said Diana Patel, sliding the business proposal back across the table. "You have talent, Ava, but that name carries baggage." Diana, a shrewd venture capitalist, had agreed to meet me after months of persistent emails. The Seattle coffee shop was far from my family's East Coast territory. "Orion, then," I said. "Orion Developments." "The Hunter," Diana smiled. "I like it. Your strategy of sustainable urban renewal is solid. But you're still one person with a tarnished reputation." "I have Walter Chun, best project manager on the East Coast." "2 people, then," Diana corrected, unimpressed. I leaned forward. "2 people who know exactly how Morgan and Company operates, who can anticipate their moves, undercut their bids, and approach their clients with better proposals." "Revenge is a terrible business model." "This isn't about revenge," I countered. "It's about proving what I can do without the Morgan name. It's about building something better than what they destroyed." Diana studied me. "You'll need more than Walter Chun and determination. I'll need an investor who sees potential where others see risk," I replied. "Someone who recognizes that my brother may have the name, but I inherited my father's vision." Diana wrote a name on a napkin. "Marcus Reynolds." "Dad's old partner?" I asked, stunned. "I thought he hated the Morgan family." "Not the entire Morgan family," Diana replied meaningfully. "Call him." 1 year earlier. To Orion's first major contract, Marcus raised his glass in the private dining room of his club. At 72, he still had the commanding presence that had made him my father's equal. "To new beginnings," I replied. "Robert would be proud," Marcus said, "though he'd be furious with Liam." "You never told me why you two fell out," I ventured. "Your father wanted to keep the business in the family. I wanted to take the company public, expand aggressively. Neither of us was wrong, just different visions. And now you're funding his daughter's competing company." "Irony at its finest," Marcus chuckled. "But Orion isn't just competing, it's innovating. Your sustainable approach is years ahead of Morgan and Company. They're still landing the biggest contracts," I admitted. "For now," Marcus replied. "But they're stretched thin. Liam's been taking on too many projects, trying to impress the board. Quality is slipping." I nodded, having heard the same. "Still, no one knows Orion exists. We're a ghost in the industry." "Which is exactly how we want it," Marcus smiled. "Until the moment it isn't." 6 months earlier. Westridge Development. Walter frowned at the laptop screen in our modest office. "That's a massive project. And Morgan and Company is the frontrunner," I said, pacing. "If Liam lands it, it'll cement his position for years." "Their proposal is strong," Walter admitted. "Traditional, but strong." "Traditional is exactly the problem." I stopped pacing. "What if we offered something completely different? Something that would make Westridge not just profitable, but revolutionary?" Walter raised an eyebrow. "We're talking about a $200 million project, Ava. Orion doesn't have that kind of capital." "Not yet," I agreed. "But what if we approached Westridge's parent company directly? Not as competitors to Morgan and Company, but as potential partners who could turn their development into a showcase of sustainable innovation." "Bold move," Walter said slowly. "But won't they recognize your name?" I smiled. They'll be meeting with Elizabeth Conrad, not Ava Morgan. And after 3 years of keeping my identity hidden, I think I can manage one more deception. Present day. As I drove away from the Morgan estate, memories of the past 3 years flashed through my mind. The late nights, the rejected proposals, the slow, painful process of building Orion while keeping my identity hidden. Now, Orion Developments was no longer a ghost. With projects in 4 states and a growing reputation for innovation, we'd become a respected boutique firm. What my family didn't know, what no one knew except Walter, Marcus, and our core team, was that Ava Morgan and Elizabeth Conrad, the founder of Orion, were one and the same. I pulled into the parking lot of my hotel and took out my phone. 3 missed calls from Walter and a text. Reynolds has greenlit everything. We're ready when you are. I smiled and dialed Walter's number. It's done, I said when he answered. They offered the buyout, just like we predicted. Did you sign? Walter asked. Of course not, but I let them think I might. How's our timetable looking? The press release goes out at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Financial Times already has the exclusive. How did Liam look when you left? I thought of my brother's confused expression. Like a man who thinks he's won, I replied. That will make tomorrow so much sweeter. Get some rest, boss, Walter said. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. I ended the call and leaned back in my car seat. While they were celebrating my exile, I had been building. Quietly. Relentlessly. And now, I owned the one thing they couldn't live without. By this time tomorrow, the Morgan family would discover exactly what I'd become in the darkness they had cast me into. I woke before my alarm, adrenaline already coursing through my veins. 7:30 a.m. 30 minutes until the press release. My phone buzzed with a text from Walter. Everything set. Board meeting at Morgan & Company starts at 9 a.m. Perfect timing. I smiled, imagining Liam confidently walking into that boardroom, unaware that his world was about to implode. After a quick shower, I dressed carefully, charcoal gray suit, emerald silk blouse, subtle makeup. Today I wasn't playing the role of Elizabeth Conrad or the scorned Ava Morgan. Today I was becoming something new, the architect of my own vindication. At exactly 8 a.m., my phone began to ring. I let it go to voicemail, watching as call after call came in. Uncle James.
Emma. Mom.
Various business reporters I'd spoken with over the years. But not Liam. Not yet. I made myself a cup of coffee and opened my laptop to read the Financial Times headline. Morgan & Co. loses Westridge deal to upstart Orion Developments. CEO Ava Morgan reveals identity. The article detailed how Orion Developments, a previously low-profile firm making waves with sustainable design, had secured exclusive rights to the $200 million Westridge project. The bombshell, Orion's founder, Elizabeth Conrad, was actually Ava Morgan, ousted executive of Morgan & Company. Further down, the reporter mentioned documents showing financial discrepancies at Morgan & Company under Liam Morgan's leadership, including possible misappropriation of client funds and falsified project timelines. At 8:45 a.m., Liam finally called. I let it ring, then listened to his voice message. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Call me back immediately. You have no idea what you've started." "Oh, but I did." At 9:15 a.m., I called Walter. "How's it going over there?" I asked. "Absolute chaos," Walter replied, sounding gleeful. "I'm in the lobby watching people rush in and out. 3 board members have arrived early. Thompson from legal looks like he's about to have a stroke." "Any sign of Liam?" "Stormed in about 10 minutes ago. Didn't even wait for the elevator. Took the stairs." I checked my watch. "I'm heading over now. Everything else ready?" "All set." Marcus is already in the conference room across the street. The Westridge executives are with him. Perfect. I drove to Morgan & Company's downtown headquarters, parking in the visitor lot instead of the executive garage I'd once used daily. The 20-story glass tower had always seemed so intimidating. Now it looked vulnerable, like a castle with a critical weakness in its defenses. As I walked through the lobby, conversation stopped. Employees stared, some with shock, others with something that looked almost like admiration. The security guard who had escorted me out 3 years ago now nodded respectfully as I passed. The elevator took me to the top floor, where Morgan and Company's executive offices were located. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw me. "Ms. Morgan, do you have an appointment?" "I don't need one," I replied calmly. "I'm family, remember?" Without waiting for a response, I walked past her toward the boardroom. Through the glass walls, I could see Liam standing at the head of the table, face flushed as he gestured angrily. Board members sat in various states of concern and confusion. Mom was there too, looking pale and small in her chair. I pushed open the door and conversation ceased immediately. "Sorry I'm late," I said into the silence. Traffic was terrible. Liam's face contorted with fury. "You have no right to be here." "Actually, I still own shares in this company," I replied. "Shares I never signed away last night, if you recall." Uncle James stood. "Ava, this is highly inappropriate." "What's inappropriate?" I cut him off. "Is how this company has been managed for the past 3 years." I placed my briefcase on the table and took out several folders, sliding them toward the board members. Inside, you'll find documented evidence of financial mismanagement under Liam's leadership. Inflated project costs, client funds diverted to cover losses, construction shortcuts that violate safety codes, all of it verified by independent auditors. One of the board members, Janet Chen, opened her folder and began reading, her expression growing increasingly disturbed. "This is slander," Liam sputtered. "A pathetic attempt at revenge." "Revenge?" I raised an eyebrow. "I prefer to call it accountability. But if you want to talk about the Westridge deal, we can certainly do that." Liam slammed his hand on the table. "You had no right to interfere with that deal. You violated your non-compete." "What non-compete?" I asked innocently. "I never signed your agreement, remember? Besides, Orion Developments has existed for nearly 3 years. If anyone could argue interference, it would be me." "You hid behind a fake name," Mom interjected, finally finding her voice. "You deliberately deceived everyone." "I created a new identity because this family made the name Ava Morgan toxic in the industry," I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. "I did what I had to do to survive after you all turned your backs on me." "You should have done your homework, Liam," I continued, turning back to my brother. "Your latest project? The one you announced last week? That's mine now." "Impossible," he scoffed, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. "Westridge signed an exclusive development agreement with Orion yesterday morning," I said. "Your deal is legally void. The press release was just the beginning." Janet Chen looked up from the documents. "Is this all accurate, Liam?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. Then another board member's phone. Then 3 more. "What's happening?" Uncle James demanded. "That would be your stock price starting to drop," I explained. "When markets opened 15 minutes ago, investors started reacting to the news. I imagine your major clients are calling now too, wondering if their projects are at risk." The room erupted into chaos. Board members making frantic calls. Liam shouting orders. Uncle James demanding explanations. I quietly slipped out. My work there done. In the hallway, I texted Walter. Phase 3 complete. Meet me across the street. It was time to show the Westridge executives exactly what Orion could do for their development, and what Morgan and Company never could. The collapse had begun. The Westridge executives were impressed. Their faces lit up as I walked them through Orion's innovative designs for their development. Solar integration, gray water recycling systems, community spaces that transformed with the seasons. Marcus Reynolds sat back with a proud smile, occasionally adding his endorsement to key points. "This is revolutionary," said Catherine Westridge, the project's lead developer. "Exactly the direction we want to take our brand." After handshakes and promises to finalize details the following week, I excused myself. There was still unfinished business at Morgan and Company. When I returned to the building, the atmosphere had shifted from chaos to stunned resignation. Employees huddled in corners, whispering. 2 news vans had parked outside. I took the elevator to the executive floor again, but this time I bypassed the boardroom. The meeting had evidently ended. Board members were leaving in small groups, their faces grim. None of them looked me in the eye. I found Uncle James in Dad's old office, Liam's office now, staring out the window at the city skyline. He didn't turn when I entered. "You could have just sued us," he said flatly. "Exposed Liam's manipulations to the board without destroying the company. Is that what you think I've done? Destroyed the company." He finally faced me. "Haven't you? The stock's down 17% already. 3 major clients have called questioning their contracts. The company was destroying itself under Liam's leadership," I replied. "Those financial discrepancies weren't fabricated, Uncle James. You know that." He sighed, suddenly looking older than his 65 years. I suspected. "But your father always wanted Liam to lead." "No, he didn't," I said quietly. "Dad wanted us to lead together. Liam had the charm, but I had the vision, that's what he told people. We were supposed to balance each other." Uncle James nodded slowly. "Why did you come back here now? To gloat? To speak my truth? For 3 years, I've lived with everyone believing I was incompetent or reckless, that I somehow failed Dad's legacy. And now I've proven what I'm capable of. What I always was capable of if anyone had bothered to stand up for me. Including you, I didn't say, but his averted eyes told me he heard it anyway." I found Emma next, alone in the break room, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. "I'm sorry," she whispered when I entered. "I should have said something at Christmas dinner. When they told me about the vote, I didn't agree, but I didn't object either." I sat across from her. "Why not?" "Fear," she admitted. "Liam has controlled everything since Dad died. The family money, the company decisions, even how we all interact. I let myself believe he knew best." I reached across and squeezed her hand. "We all make choices, Em, but we can also make different ones going forward." Tears welled in her eyes. "What happens now? Morgan and company will survive, but it needs to change. And I think you might have more of Dad's strength in you than you realize." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Maybe it's time I found out." I found my mother in the small meditation room Dad had insisted on installing years ago. She sat perfectly still on one of the cushions, eyes closed, but I knew she wasn't meditating. "I suppose you hate me now," she said without opening her eyes. "I've never hated you, Mom." I sat beside her. "But your silence hurt more than Liam's actions ever could." Her eyes opened then, red-rimmed and tired. "I thought I was protecting the family legacy. By sacrificing your daughter?" She flinched. "I convinced myself you would be fine. That you were strong like your father, able to overcome anything. That maybe some time away from the company would be good for you." 3 years isn't some time away," I said. "And that buyout agreement wasn't about giving me a fresh start. It was about erasing me completely." "I know," she whispered. "When Liam presented it to us last week, I felt sick. But I still said nothing. That's the pattern, isn't it? Your silence is your weapon, Mom. And you've wielded it against me my entire life." She closed her eyes again, but not before I saw the pain flash across her face. "Good. Sometimes pain was necessary for growth. You kicked me out because you were afraid." I continued, standing up. "You knew I was better. And now I'm not asking for a seat at the table. I'm flipping the whole damn table over." Finally, I found Liam in the company garage, pacing beside his luxury sedan, phone pressed to his ear. When he saw me, he ended the call abruptly. "Come to finish what you started?" he sneered. "It was finished the moment you decided to betray me 3 years ago," I replied calmly. "This was just the reckoning." "You've ruined everything," he hissed. "Years of work, destroyed in a day." "No, Liam. I've exposed the truth. There's a difference." "What do you want? To take over Morgan and company? To humiliate me completely?" I studied my brother, the golden child, the chosen one, now reduced to desperately clutching his car keys as his kingdom crumbled. "I don't want Morgan and company," I said simply. "I've built something better. Something honest. What I wanted was for everyone to see who you really are and who I really am." "So that's it?" Revenge served cold. Not revenge. I corrected him. Justice. And maybe, eventually, a chance for this family to heal on more equal footing. I turned to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Liam? I suggest you prepare for the board meeting tomorrow. I hear there might be a vote. The look on his face, shock mixed with the dawning recognition of his own tactics being turned against him, was worth 3 years of waiting. As I left the building, I felt lighter than I had in years. I hadn't come back for revenge. I'd come back for the truth. 1 week later, the snow fell gently outside my new office windows. From the 32nd floor, I could see the entire city spread out below, twinkling with holiday lights. In the distance, the Morgan and Company building stood as it always had, but it was no longer the tallest shadow on my horizon. Coffee, Ms. Morgan? Walter appeared at my door, 2 steaming mugs in hand. Thank you. I accepted the cup gratefully. And it's still just Ava to you. He smiled, taking the seat across from my desk. Hard to break old habits, especially when you've just been named one of the 40 under 40 business leaders to watch. I laughed, gesturing to the magazine on my desk. That was fast. Nothing gets attention like a good corporate drama, Walter replied. Though, I think your sustainable designs for Westridge sealed the deal. The feature calls you innovative and visionary. Words my father used to use, I said softly. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Board meeting finished. Call me when you can. News from the front lines? Walter asked. I nodded. Let's find out what happened. I dialed Emma's number, putting her on speaker. They voted him out, she said immediately, her voice a mixture of disbelief and excitement. Liam's gone, effective immediately. Despite everything, I felt a pang of something like sympathy. I knew what it was like to be forced out of the company you loved. Who's taking over? I asked. That's the thing, Emma replied. They've asked me to step in as interim CEO. I nearly spilled my coffee. You? No offense, but you've never been involved in operations. I know, she laughed nervously. But Uncle James made a passionate speech about new blood and family legacy. Said it was time for a different Morgan perspective. Mom seconded it. Walter raised his eyebrows in surprise. Will you do it? I asked. I don't know, Emma admitted. I'd need help. A lot of it. You'd have it, I said without hesitation.
There was a pause on the line.
From you? After everything? Morgan and Company was Dad's legacy too. I don't want to see it fail. I meant it, I realized. Despite everything, I didn't want my father's company destroyed. After we hung up, Walter gave me a curious look. That's quite a turnaround. Last week they voted you out of the family. Now, they want your help saving the company. Ironic, isn't it? I smiled. But Emma was the only one who showed genuine remorse. She deserves a chance. And Liam will land on his feet. Men like him always do. I took another sip of coffee. But not at Orion and not at Morgan and Company. My assistant buzzed to announce Marcus Reynolds had arrived for our lunch meeting. Perfect timing. Shall we celebrate? Marcus asked when he entered, brandishing a bottle of champagne. Your victory is complete. I gestured for him to take a seat. Not a victory. A new beginning. Marcus nodded, his eyes twinkling. Your father would have said something like that. Would he have approved of what I did? I asked, voicing the question that had haunted me for days. Robert was a complicated man, Marcus replied carefully. He valued family loyalty above all else, but he also believed in justice. I think he would have been proud of how you built something from nothing, even while he'd be troubled by the family fracture. The fracture happened 3 years ago. I reminded him. I just exposed it. Marcus poured champagne into glasses Walter brought over. To Orion Developments. May you rise even higher than your namesake. We clinked glasses, and I allowed myself to savor the moment. In 1 week, Orion had gone from a rising boutique firm to the industry's most talked about company. 3 major clients had reached out wanting to switch from Morgan and Company. I declined, suggesting instead a unique partnership arrangement that would benefit both companies. Not revenge, after all. Something more sustainable. As if on cue, my phone rang.
Mom.
I should take this, I said, stepping away from the men. Ava, she began, her voice tentative. I wanted to tell you I'm proud of what you've built. Words I'd waited years to hear. They came too late to heal all wounds, but not too late to matter. Thank you, I said simply. And I was wrong, she continued. Wrong to stay silent. Wrong to let Liam push you out. Wrong about so many things. Yes, you were. I agreed, not making it easier for her. Some lessons needed to be felt deeply, to be learned. Can we start again? She asked. Not as business associates, as mother and daughter. I looked out at the snow falling gently on the city. We can try. After we hung up, I received a final text from Uncle James. Your father once told me you'd either be the company's greatest asset or its most formidable competitor. He never imagined you'd be both. I smiled, returning to Marcus and Walter. They were already discussing the Patterson development, our next major project. Everything all right? Walter asked. Better than all right, I replied. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back for closure. Marcus raised his glass again. And the Empire? I laughed, feeling truly light for the first time in years. I'll take that too. As the snow continued to fall outside my window, I thought about the journey of the past 3 years. From the humiliation of being escorted from my office to building Orion from nothing. From hiding in the shadows to standing in the light. From being voted out to creating my own empire. I hadn't needed a seat at their table. I'd built my own. And mine was better.